Part 36. The Liu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 351. Chapter 351 I wish you peace and happiness. They focused on a game of chess. Neither of them gave in to the other. During this period, Zhang Wanan came and presented a plate of fruit. Neither of them said anything. Even Liu who didn't look at her. Although it was just a game of chess, Zhang Wanan, an outsider, could clearly smell the smoke of gunpowder. These two are very intense. The process of playing chess is tense and a little uneasy. The game is neither fast nor slow, but at the end of the game there will be a winner. Liu who won the game of chess in a thrilling way at the last moment, but Liu who was not very happy because he saw the clues. Dad, are you letting it go? I don't know about your level. You should win in the end. Liu who frowned and said to Liu Lin. Liu who still knew about Liu Lin's level. He could see clearly and knew whether he was serious about playing or letting loose. Liu Lin, who was seen through, smiled awkwardly and said nothing. Dad, I'm not a big man who can't afford to lose. You, sigh. At the end of the sentence, Liu who sighed helplessly. That's the necklace Anan gave you. I intercepted it as soon as I gave it to you, okay. Dad was just teasing you just now and didn't really want it? This game doesn't count, okay. I'll show my true level in the next game. We decide the outcome in one round. Okay, I still want that antique. Liu who looked at the antique stubbornly. He really thinks it looks good. Liu Lin nodded but didn't say what he wanted. What do you want, or a necklace? Liu who asked. I wish you peace and happiness, Liu Lin said. Liu whose hand holding the chess piece paused, feeling a little uncomfortable and how ignorant he was. Thank you, Dad. Liu who hesitated for a while before speaking out. After all, it was very difficult to say such a thing to Liu Lin. It was very difficult. This was what he mustered up the courage to say. Liu Lin didn't know whether he didn't hear it or was embarrassed to speak. The corners of his lips raised slightly, but he didn't say anything. This game of chess was won by Liu Lin in the end. The two of them were addicted to each other. If Zhang Wanan and Tang Yu hadn't left, they might have had to fight in the study for a long time. Slow down on the road, go back and make a call or send a message. Liu who sent Zhang Wanan out. Originally, they thought that Zhang Wanan would not go back as it was getting very late, but they went back anyway. Okay, see you at school tomorrow, Zhang Wanan replied. The family of three watched the mother and daughter go back to the house. Tang Yu has been a little tired lately. I have to find a way to ask her to go out and relax, Lin 11 muttered softly when she returned to the house. I see you are also very tired. Let's find a few trustworthy people in the store to help take care of it. You two can go out and relax together, Liu Lin heard clearly beside her. Where can we go? We can't go out together at the same time. There will be chaos in the store. I have nothing to do and don't need to go out to relax, Lin 11 frowned immediately and said. She really felt that Tang Yu was under a lot of pressure recently, and she was not willing to say it, so she just felt bored in her heart. She was really afraid that she would get bored. How about we go out after Tang Yu comes back from his leisure time? Liu Lin asked again. Lin 11 looked up at him, thought for a while and said, let's talk about it later. Liu Lin had nothing to say. Go to bed early, birthday boy, Lin 11 said at Liu who's door. The sound penetrated the door panel and reached Liu who's ears. Liu who's good night also came out from the door panel again. The other side. Tang Yu and Zhang Wanan were still speeding on the road. There weren't many cars on the road at night. Tang Yu's car was driving a little too fast. Zhang Wanan didn't sleep this time. She sat in the back with her head against the glass window and stared at the neon world outside. End of this chapter. The Liu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 352. Chapter 352 I have a premonition. Are you sleepy, Anan. If not, go to sleep first. Mom will call you when you arrive later, Tang Yu said. Zhang shook her head. She was not sleepy, not at all. That's okay, you can go home and sleep again. You'll be home in a while, Tang Yu said. Zhang nodded. After a moment of silence in the carriage, Zhang suddenly spoke. Mom, she called softly. Huh? What's wrong? Tang Yu looked at her in the rearview mirror. I have a hunch that the person who left me without telling me before is going to show up, she said. Huh? Tang Yu was confused and didn't know what she meant by her words. He's my desk mate from elementary school. He left without saying goodbye and there's no news yet, but I think he's about to show up. Zhang frowned. How do you feel it? Telepathy, Tang Yu teased her intentionally. Mom, Zhang called out coquettishly and said, you will be angry if Xiao Zhuzi finds out about this. I can only have telepathy with him. That desk mate and I are just friends. Zhang was eager. Explanation of. Obviously loses who couldn't hear these words without him, and no one would tell him these words in the future, but at this moment Zhang was as nervous as if loses who was by her side. Okay, Mom won't tell me, she's just joking, Tang Yu coaxed hurriedly. Mom, what do you think of my premonition? Zhang was looking forward to hearing what Tang Yu had to say, so she leaned forward and hugged the car seat in front of her, waiting for Tang Yu to speak. Maybe it will be accurate, but in the end, Tang Yu only said this. Okay, let's take a look. Zhang went back and sat down. The car drove for a while and the couple finally arrived home. It was already a little late when they got home, and they were both a little tired after a long day of work. Zhang drank the milk that Tang Yu had warmed for her and went to the room. Go to rest early, Mom. Zhang waved to Tang Yu before closing the door. The two of them said good night to each other. After Zhang entered the room and closed the door, Tang Yu took out a small white bottle from under the coffee table, and then took out a few pills and put them into his mouth. After sitting on the sofa for a while, she also got up and went back to her room. Tang Yu slept peacefully that night. Although he woke up a few times, he fell asleep again soon after. Maybe he was too tired today, so he slept peacefully. It may also be because Zhang came back to his family. Let her no longer feel alone. Sleep well at night and feel energetic during the day. Tang Yu got up very early the next day and carefully prepared breakfast. Zhang said before returning to the room last night that he wouldn't eat wontons for a long time, so he had wontons for breakfast this morning. Breakfast was ready. Tang Yu went to call Zhang. To his surprise, he opened the door and Zhang had already gotten up and washed up. Tang Yu felt happy and asked with a smile, why did you get up so early today? Because I smelled the fragrance in my dream, Zhang said, and smelled the air. Tang Yu couldn't laugh or cry. He didn't expect this little girl to be so greedy that she could smell the fragrance in her sleep and wake up. Then come out and eat quickly. Zhang followed Tang Yu out. Mom, did you do a lot? Zhang asked. Enough for the two of us to eat, Tang Yu said. Is it enough to add one more person? Zhang asked again. Tang Yu felt confused, but when he looked back at Zhang expression, he understood everything. What? Do you want to bring it to Xiaozhou? She could see through Zhang little thoughts at a glance. Zhang nodded vigorously. That's enough. There's still some uncooked food in the kitchen. Let's cook it before we leave, otherwise it'll be lumpy, Tang Yu said. Okay, then I'll tell him not to eat, and let him try the wontons made by Ms. Tang Yu. Is it delicious? Zhang said and dove back to the bedroom, not sure whether to send a message or make a phone call. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 353. Chapter 353, Who will report us if we have a meal? Tang Yu looked at the little girl and sighed helplessly, thinking that everyone else had a wife and forgot about their mother, but her daughter was different. When Zhang Wanan was almost done eating, Tang Yu entered the kitchen again because she wanted to make breakfast for her son-in-law. "Anan, did you really not let Xiaozhou eat?" Tang Yu said after cooking the wontons and putting them in the lunch box. "No, I didn't let him eat it at all. You're going to be hungry, you kid. It's good for Xiaozhou to eat a little. I'm afraid he won't be able to eat the wontons you made," Zhang Wanan explained. "Then let's go early. Don't let the boat wait there any longer. We are hungry and cold. The weather is a bit changeable today. Remember to take an umbrella later," Tang Yu said. Zhang Wanan nodded. "Mom, will you pick me up this afternoon?" "Afternoon?" Tang Yu paused and thought for a while, then said, "See if the store is busy. If Mom doesn't pick you up in the afternoon, just go back with the boat. Mom will pick you up in the evening." "All right. Here, it's packed. You can pick it up later so you don't get burned." Tang Yu handed over the hot wontons in the lunch box. Zhang Wanan was about to reach out to take it, but Tang Yu suddenly took it back. "I won't give it to you now. It's not safe. I'll give it to you after I get in the car." She was afraid of burning Zhang Wanan. Zhang Wanan got dressed, put her umbrella in her bag, and leaned over with a smile. "Mom is so kind. Mom is good, but it would be better if there is a father." This time they left a little earlier, and when they arrived, they saw Lu Zizhu also walking to the school gate. What a coincidence! Zhang Wanan waited for the car to stop and said goodbye to Tang Yu, then got out of the car with her bag and wontons on her back. "Lu Zizhu," she shouted, and quickly attracted attention. Many people looked over. Zhang Wanan realized that she was too excited, so she blushed and lowered her head in embarrassment. Lu Zizhu also looked over, and then he walked straight towards Zhang Wanan regardless of other people's eyes. "It's so early today." He patted her head naturally with one hand and took the wontons from Zhang Wanan's hand with the other. "Your mother-in-law left earlier because she was afraid that you would be hungry," Zhang Wanan said. "Then thank you, Auntie." "Why don't you thank me?" Zhang Wanan crossed her arms and looked at Lu Zizhu. "Thank you for what? Do you think you would be able to eat wontons if it weren't for me? Just eat them in your dreams." Zhang Wanan rolled her eyes as she spoke. Thank you, okay," Lu Zizhu smiled helplessly. "That's pretty much it," Zhang Wanan snorted arrogantly. "Where are you going to eat? If you eat it in the classroom and it tastes very strong, it will be bad for your image." Zhang Wanan looked around and frowned. "There is food, but where to eat is still a problem." Lu Zizhu smiled. This little girl actually helped him pay attention to his image. It was really unexpected. Go to the small garden, eat on the bench, and then go back to the classroom." Lu Zizhu thought for a while and said, after all, there was no other place to go. "But, people will see her. What if we report her?" Zhang Wanan said with a frown. "After all, many people saw her shouting so loudly just now. Who would report us when we have a meal?" Lu Zizhu deliberately misinterpreted her meaning. "You know that's not what I meant." Zhang Wanan was a little anxious. But Lu Zizhu didn't care at all. He put his arm around Zhang Wanan's shoulders and led her into the school gate. Zhang Wanan was afraid of the negative impact, so she forcefully removed Lu Zizhu's hand from her body. "I was bumped into by a classmate later. How about just saying we are good friends when someone encounters her and not mentioning the real relationship?" Lu Zizhu helplessly interrupted what she was about to say, because he knew what Zhang Wanan was going to say. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 354. Chapter 354, It's hard to date secretly. As expected, Zhang Wanan wanted to say this and nodded his head several times. "Zhang Wanan, do you know that you are leaving a loophole for others to sneak in?" Lu Zizhu said with a sigh. Of course Zhang Wanan knew that such an outstanding person like Luzes who was staring at her with eager eyes, of course, but it would be very troublesome once their relationship was exposed. And she believed that Luzes who would not leave any loopholes to others. You won't leave any loopholes to others, I know that. Zhang Wanan looked up at Luzes who and said. Luzes who sighed helplessly again. The two of them found a secluded place, trying to be seen by as few people as possible. The wontons were still hot when she opened them. Zhang Wanan took a deep breath and her mouth watered, but she had just eaten them. Luzes who noticed the little glutton and put the spoon in front of her. How many of them do you want to eat first? Zhang Wanan looked at Luzes who and then at the spoon in his hand and swallowed. She couldn't eat. She wouldn't be able to stop eating once she started eating. Moreover, Luzes who hadn't eaten yet. No matter how ignorant she was, she couldn't do this. Trap Luzes who. Don't eat, Zhang Wanan said 2 words firmly, then pursed her lips and stopped talking. Although Zhang Wanan said firmly, Luzes who could still tell that she was really greedy. Since Zhang Wanan was embarrassed, he had to do it himself. Luzes who took back the hand holding the spoon, scooped one out of the lunch box and brought it to Zhang Wanan's mouth. Stop pretending, I'm obviously very greedy, just eat one. But if I eat just one of you, it won't be enough, Zhang Wanan said awkwardly and embarrassedly. Would you like to eat? If not, I'll eat, Luzes who said. Eat, 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 Zhang Wanan shouted 3 times and swallowed the wonton in big gulps. After Zhang Wanan ate the wonton, Luzes who put 3 more into her mouth. Zhang Wanan ate each one. Luzes who curled his lips and smiled, knowing that Zhang Wanan was using this trick. I'm not going to eat, please eat quickly, Zhang Wanan said slurred words with her mouth full. If she keeps eating, Luzes who will really not be enough. Eat another one, Luzes who said and put the wonton to her mouth again. Zhang Wanan waved her hands hurriedly. I don't want to eat it. I really don't want to eat it. Eat it quickly. It will get cold in a while. Luzes who originally wanted to insist on feeding Zhang Wanan a few more, but Zhang Wanan kept pressing her lips tightly to resist, and in the end Luzes who had to eat it by himself. Is it delicious? Zhang Wanan asked, sitting on one side and holding her face. Luzes who nodded, wondering if the food made by his mother-in-law and delivered to him by his daughter-in-law would not be delicious. Well, it's hard for you, you'll have to eat a lot of cold wind when you eat here, and your stomach will feel uncomfortable after a while, Zhang Wanan said. Luzes who chuckled. He didn't think so. Instead, he felt very happy and happy. Even though it was very secluded here, people would still walk by from time to time. I don't know why. Zhang Wanan was particularly vigilant this time. When she heard the footsteps, she turned her head to the side, pretending that she and Luzes who were not at all like each other. I know, just a guy sitting here blowing the wind. Luzes who felt funny when he saw her like this. It's so difficult to date secretly, Luzes who lamented. If it weren't for you being so good, you wouldn't have to do this, Zhang Wanan couldn't help but complain in a low voice. The wind blew her voice away, and Luzes who only heard a few words. But he did not ask further questions. After finishing the wontons, Zhang Wanan was about to pack them away when she heard footsteps again, so she quickly took a few steps forward, walking first as a sign of respect. Luzes who was still bending down to pack his things, but when he looked up, he saw that Zhang Wanan was gone. He called out to Zhang Wanan but didn't look back and kept walking forward. Just as he was about to catch up, he heard someone calling his name from behind. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 355. Chapter 355. One of the 3 giants. Luzes who thought the voice was familiar, and turned around to see a middle-aged man with a big belly. Is the director of the student department and is called one of the 3 giants in the school by students. Luzes who felt a headache when he saw him, because nothing good happened when he was around. After a long time, Not only did other classmates in the school feel a headache when they saw him, but even losers who didn't want to see him. "Hello, teacher," losers who called politely. After calling, he turned around and pretended to glance back inadvertently. Jongwanan had disappeared. He breathed a sigh of relief and thought to himself, "Don't let the old man see Jongwanan, otherwise Jongwanan will not be able to enjoy good things at school in the future." The middle-aged man nodded slightly. "Losers who, your last speech brought glory to the school. The school is really lucky to have students like you," he said. Maybe to other people's ears, they sounded like ordinary polite words and compliments, but losers who already felt something was wrong. He was giving a compliment on the surface, but he clearly had something to say. "Thank you for the compliment, teacher," losers who said politely. "Well, but don't thank me too early. The reason why the teacher is here is, I heard that you are here and I want to say something to you." Losers who rolled his eyes inwardly and thought, "Look, let's get to the point. Any speech that doesn't make a speech, and anything that seeks glory or not is just a pretense." Losers who nodded. In fact, losers who already knew what he was going to say. "Teacher heard that some classmates have been spreading rumors, that you fell in love early. You are only in your second year of high school now, and you will soon take the college entrance examination in your third year of high school. Studying is the most important thing, but don't let irrelevant things disturb your study." The teacher frowned. He looked worried about his future. Losers who sneered. He didn't disturb his studies because he was obviously afraid that his grades would fall and he would not be able to bring glory to the school. Seeing that he didn't speak, the teacher continued, "You can't let a trivial matter like falling in love ruin your future. And you have to recognize people clearly. Teacher, in my opinion, falling in love is not a trivial matter." Losers who finally couldn't suppress the irritation in his heart and spoke. "Oh? How do you say that?" This time it was the middle-aged man's turn to frown in confusion. He didn't quite understand what losers who said. "Love is related to the future life, so it is a big deal," losers who explained directly. The middle-aged man frowned and shook his head. He couldn't be tough with losers who. After all, he was the school's mascot and he had to be coaxed, otherwise it would be bad if he would not be happy. "What you said is not entirely wrong, but the teacher still feels that it is not suitable for your current age. He still hopes that you can put your studies first and set a good example for your classmates at school." Losers who didn't speak. If possible, the teacher doesn't want to hear the words "losers who is in love" again. Keep a low profile and don't make it public, otherwise the school will still punish you to a certain extent. Whatever, losers who said nonchalantly. He didn't care about punishments and other things. He had long looked down on fame and fortune. A little punishment would be the icing on the cake. Just what he wants. "Is it a gift from my girlfriend? Where is my girlfriend? Is she hiding?" The middle-aged man looked at losers who holding the leftover lunchbox in his hand and then looked around the area. "A gift from my mother-in-law," losers who said a little arrogantly, causing the teacher's already fake smile to freeze instantly. "Losers who?" the teacher called out helplessly. Losers who raised his eyebrows and looked at him extremely arrogantly. "Is there anything else, teacher? It's time for me to go back to study and bring glory to the school." The middle-aged man was speechless and had nothing to say, so he finally waved him away. Just before losers who left, he gave another warning: "Don't go too far, just think of it for your sake and that girl's sake." He was threatening Jongwanan, but losers who ignored him and walked away. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Liu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 356. Chapter 356. When will we see you again? At a corner, losers who stopped and threw the lunchbox in his hand into the trash can. It was disposable. But he did not walk away directly after throwing it away. Instead, he said to the pillar, "Come out." Sure enough, a person came out of it after a while. It was Zhang Wanan, and she hid here to wait for him. "What took you so long to come here?" she asked, holding on to the pillar. Lu Zizhu shrugged and said helplessly, "I was chatting with old Lu, one of the three giants." Ah, Zhang Wanan was a little surprised and asked with wide eyes, "What did you say? How did you meet him? He is so scary." Lu Zizhu smiled. "He came right after you walked away by coincidence. He just talked about studying and praised me a few times." It's okay. Lu Zizhu hid what Lao Lu said about his love. Because if he told her, Zhang Wanan would definitely keep a distance from him again. They had already kept a distance enough and kept a low profile. Some classmates must have secretly reported it after seeing it, otherwise how would he know about it, and why would he inexplicably go to that secluded place where almost no one goes? Only the three big guys were interested in that place. They had time to go and walk around. One was to take a walk and the other was to catch a few classmates who were secretly dating. But since we caught a few young couples before, almost no one has taken the risk. His going with Zhang Wanan today was nothing more than an adventure. Huh? I heard the footsteps and walked away. I thought it was someone else, but I didn't expect it was Lao Lu. If you had left at that time, he would definitely not be able to catch up with you, Zhang Wanan said. She really didn't know who was coming when she left. She just thought it was that classmate. If she saw her and Lu Zizhu cleaning up, she would definitely be suspicious, but for a moment she didn't know what to do, so she had to leave. "It's okay, fortunately you left, otherwise we would have been called to chat and drink tea today." "I guess I can't drink tea if I want to chat, I might have to call my parents." "That's right, it will be fun then." Lu Zizhu suddenly smiled slyly, and he wanted to laugh when he thought of the scene where the parents of the two families were confronting Lao Lu. Zhang Wanan also found it funny and laughed after thinking about it for a moment. "Let's go back quickly, it won't be good if that big devil, old Lu Tiu, comes over again and sees us," Zhang Wanan urged. Lu Zizhu looked back and estimated that old Lu Tiu would not come over, but class was about to begin. So the two of them walked towards the teaching building. "When will we see you again?" Lu Zizhu asked at the fork in the path. He had to make sure whether he could meet after class or whether he could only meet during lunch. "I'll see Dabao every day," Zhang Wanan said playfully. "No, let's see you for lunch. It's still the same place. Just come to me after buying it, but keep it low-key." Zhang Wanan pinched her fingers and gestured. Okay, let's go." The two of them separated at a fork in the road. What a coincidence, the bell rang as soon as she arrived in the classroom. As soon as Zhang Wanan sat down, the pair of classmates got up. They were bleary-eyed. They must have been asleep since the morning and woke up when the bell rang just now. I don't know since when, the three people have formed a tacit understanding, that is, when the two people in front turn their heads, Zhang Wanan will look up, and the three people will make eye contact. No, the three people met each other's eyes again. "Have you brought your mobile phone? Look at your mobile phone," Su Jiao whispered. Su Jiao's voice was buried in the morning reading sound, and Zhang Wanan couldn't hear what she said at all. "What did you say?" Zhang Wanan asked. "Mobile phone. Don't you have a mobile phone?" Su Jiao heard Zhang Wanan speak, and she was a little angry. She didn't know why Zhang Wanan's ears were so bad that he couldn't hear her. Zhang Wanan didn't hear clearly this time, so Su Jiao had no choice but to write the words on the white paper, and then she and He Chai raised them one by one to face Zhang Wanan. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 357. Chapter 357 Things to look forward to. There are a few big words written on the white paper. "Do you have a mobile phone?" Zhang Wanan finally knew what she was talking about. She shook her head. She didn't bring her mobile phone. It would be easy to be discovered if she had a mobile phone. The teacher would put it away and not give it to her for a long time. She still relied on her mobile phone to communicate with Luz's Hu. Su Jiao and He Chiu showed her the in an unusually tacit understanding. Zhang Wanan shrugged helplessly, thinking why should he be despised for not carrying a mobile phone? Su Jiao wanted to say something else, but in a blink of an eye, he caught a glimpse of the head teacher peeking out of the window. He quickly said let's talk after class to Zhang Wanan and shut up. As a result, at the end of the class, as soon as the teacher walked out, Su Jiao rushed towards Zhang Wanan. The noise was so loud that many people in the class looked towards them. Zhang Wanan hurriedly supported her. Why are you so excited? Did you get knocked up? Su Jiao shook her head and didn't care about the looks. She sat on Zhang Wanan's chair, and Zhang Wanan was forced to move to her seatmate inside. Su Jiao had just sat down when He Chiu came over again, his eyes bleary. He fell asleep again in class. He Chiu walked over and saw that there was no place to sit, so he patted the male classmate in front of Zhang Wanan on the shoulder and asked, "Can you lend me a seat?" The male classmate looked up and saw him, made an okay gesture, got up and left. "You didn't bring your mobile phone?" He Chiu asked as soon as he sat down. Zhang Wanan rolled his eyes. "Did I not speak sincerely when I read it earlier? Or am I not worthy of your trust?" Su Jiao slapped He Chiu on the head and hurriedly smoothed things over. "No, this guy has been suspicious and has some brain problems recently." Su Jiao poked at He Chiu's head and looked at him with disgust. "He has a brain problem and it's not something that happens in a day or two. It's okay. I can understand it," Zhang Wanan said generously. "You really think I'm mentally retarded, right?" He Chiu looked at the two of them helplessly. "Forget it, let's not talk about mental retardation, talk about other things, very important things, you have been worried about for a long time," Su Jiao said seriously. Zhang Wanan saw that she suddenly became serious and knew that this matter was really serious, but when she thought about it carefully, there was only one thing that she had been worried about for a long time, and that was Zhang Baihui's whereabouts. Could it be? Zhang Wanan didn't dare to think about it. "You say it." Zhang Wanan also became serious. "Take out your cell phone." Su Jiao glanced at the people in the classroom. No one was paying attention to this place for the time being, except for the people around him. "Why did you take my mobile phone?" He Chiu looked reluctant. "You must know that the school is not allowed to take mobile phones. If he takes it, it has violated the school's regulations. If he takes it out openly and is discovered by the teacher, he will be in trouble. Otherwise you still want me to take it? What if the teacher finds out? Hurry up and I'll protect you," Su Jiao said with a tight frown and an anxious expression. "What do you mean? I'm not afraid of being discovered by the teacher, am I?" He Chiu was a little surprised. What's wrong with women nowadays? Especially this idiot at his desk. "No, why do you have to use a mobile phone?" Zhang Wanan was a little confused and interrupted the two people who were about to quarrel. "Because the things you are looking forward to are on your mobile phone," Su Jiao said. "What's going on?" Zhang Wanan frowned. Actually, she vaguely guessed what it was, but she didn't dare to think about it. "Oh, I need a mobile phone to explain it." Su Jiao glanced at He Chiu after finishing speaking. The next second, He Chiu stood up and whispered, "I'm convinced," and went to touch around in the drawer. When he came back, he was mysterious and a little cautious. "Oh, I knew you were the best." Su Jiao smiled and carefully took the mobile phone brought by He Chiu. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 358. Chapter 358. Brother Bei. "I know I'm good, but I'm just bad for you, ahem, I'm just bad for you alone." After He Chiu finished speaking, he turned around uncomfortably. Su Jiao did not listen carefully to what he said, nor did he care about what he said. Because she and Zhang Wanan were about to put their heads in the drawer. He Chiu couldn't bear to see the two of them. He frowned and said, "I'll cover you. Come up and take a look. Don't break your neck by then." The two of them ignored him. Under the table, Zhang Wanan watched Su Jiao skillfully open He Chiu's mobile phone password, find QQ, and then found a new group that had not yet been named. There were only 4 people. Unexpectedly, Zhang Wanan was also in it. No wonder they asked her early in the morning. "Did you bring your mobile phone? Why didn't I know there was this group? Who created it?" Zhang Wanan looked at the group and was a little confused. She knew the last 3 names. They were 3 of them, but the other name was Brother Bei. Because it was He Chiu's cell phone, she didn't know who the so-called Brother Bei was. "You may not believe it." Su Jiao turned to look at her under the table with difficulty. "Then let's talk and listen first," Zhang Wanan said. "It's Jiang Bei Hui," Su Jiao said. Zhang Wanan felt that his mind was blank at that time. The missing person was back. And even created a group. How is this going? "No, since it's Jiang Bei Hui, why did you mention Brother Bei?" Zhang Wanan frowned slightly and was confused. Maybe the two of them were teasing her? "Because his name is Jiang Bei Hui, I added Brother Bei. It sounds so nice." He Chiu's voice came from the table and solved the puzzle for her. "Since it's Jiang Bei Hui, why isn't he called Brother Hui?" Zhang Wanan didn't understand, thinking that this might be He Chiu's style, so he liked to make remarks like this. The next second, Zhang Wanan snatched the phone from Su Jiao's hand and opened the chat history. Since the group was created today and they had only spoken a few words, there were very few chat records. "Built it in the morning?" she asked. "Yes, I was surprised when I found out that there was an additional group. I was even more surprised when I saw that the group leader was Jiang Bei Hui," Su Jiao said. "After all, it's really surprising to suddenly disappear and then reappear." Zhang Wanan looked at the chat history carefully. It was just a few people saying hello and talking about what they were doing recently. However, Jiang Bei Hui didn't say what he was doing, he just said he was busy. He left without saying hello, and now he suddenly appears again? Is there something wrong with this person? Zhang Wanan was a little angry. He was the one who left the 3 friends without saying a word, and it is he who showed up now. Maybe there is some reason? "You also know that Brother Bei is a rather boring person," He Chiu said, lying on the table. "Bei, you big-headed ghost, what kind of nonsense remark is this?" Zhang Wanan couldn't help complaining about He Chiu's remark. "He said he wanted to invite the 3 of us to dinner," Su Jiao said, pointing to the last message on the last page. "That was sent to Jiang Bei Hui after the class. They didn't have time to go back, and they didn't know how to go back. Let's go. After all, we are 2 brothers, so it would be bad if we don't give him face," He Chiu said again. After reading the chat history, Zhang Wanan secretly handed the phone to He Chiu again, and then the 2 of them raised their heads. "Yes, we are just friends. Maybe he had to leave because of something, but there is no way to tell," Su Jiao also said. Zhang Wanan thought for a while, and just when the 2 of them thought Zhang Wanan would stop talking, Zhang Wanan replied. She said, "Let me tell loses who." "That's useless," Su Jiao said helplessly. Definitely unwilling, He Chiu was also a little helpless. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 359. Chapter 359, Can't you take care of yourself? Zhang Wanan shook her head. She didn't think so. Although loses who disliked Zhang Bai Hui very much, he was not that selfish, and as long as he made it clear, it was still possible to go. "Yes, we'll see when the time comes. You guys can reply first." "I didn't bring my cell phone," Zhang Wanan said. The 2 of them looked at her suspiciously, doubting what she said. "Don't look, We'll get there. Zhang Wanan turned away helplessly and lay down. Su Jiao and He Chiao looked at each other and carefully went back to reply to the message. It was decided that a few people would have a dinner together. Although they had some expectations, what they wanted to know most was what happened in Jiangbei. There must be a reason why there has been no news from him for such a long time. Asterisk. Didn't we agree to meet in the restaurant at noon? Why are you here? It's almost time for class. Zhang Wanan looked at Lu Zizhu in the corner and said. Lu Zizhu spread his hands helplessly. I didn't want to come at first. I came here to drop off something and just came to see you. Be low-key. If we meet in the future, we'll meet here. There's no one around, Zhang Wanan said and looked around the small, dark tool room. She only discovered this recently. It is uninhabited and secluded, making it the best place for a date. Lu Zizhu also looked around. He nodded and said, yes, it's sentimental, like stealing, he said jokingly. Zhang Wanan hit him and pushed him. Let's go, class will start soon. Lu Zizhu didn't care at all. He put his hands in his trouser pockets and looked very relaxed. Zhang Wanan got angry when he saw him like this, but he was like this, and Zhang Wanan couldn't do anything about him, so she had to push him out in the end. As soon as he came out, he ran into a classmate who was walking by. Zhang Wanan subconsciously wanted to hide, but Lu Zizhu stood in front of him and was so eye-catching. The girl looked at Lu Zizhu and then behind him, and it was immediately obvious. She covered her mouth and exclaimed, pointed at the two people and asked incredulously, You are not in love, are you? Lu Zizhu stared straight ahead without looking at the girl or replying. Zhang Wanan, the girl called tentatively. Zhang Wanan was going crazy. This girl was the study committee member of her class, and she was very nosy and loud-mouthed. She didn't like her at all, but she couldn't escape after seeing this. Zhang Wanan's hands uncontrollably pinched Lu Zizhu's waist, gesturing for him to speak. But Lu Zizhu was unmoved even if he was pinched, and he even seemed to have no feeling at all. Lu Xueshen? Why are you in high school still in love with a girl from junior high school? The girl asked Lu Zizhu, not afraid of death when Zhang Wanan didn't speak. Lu Zizhu was finally willing to look at her. He slowly lowered his head and looked at her condescendingly. Then he opened his thin lips and asked arrogantly, What the are you doing? Mind your own business. You. The girl's face turned red when Lu Zizhu said it, but you kept silent for a long time and didn't say anything. What are you doing? Can't you take care of yourself? Why do you care about others? Lu Zizhu asked again. That's right, Zhang Wanan complained softly while hiding behind Lu Zizhu. Lu Zizhu frowned slightly and gently pinched Zhang Wanan's waist with his backhand. He thought that he would just use him as a shield to shrink his head, but he still had the nerve to whisper, BB. You will be punished by the school. If it is serious, you will be expelled. The girl blushed and finally choked out a complete sentence. Have you been punished? Have you been fired? Lu Zizhu raised his eyebrows. He was feeling a little unhappy now and wanted to hit someone. No. You're not minding your own business. Let's learn from you. If you understand what you've learned, then just mind your own business. At this moment, Zhang Wanan felt that Lu Zizhu was quite good at attacking people. It seemed that she didn't need to come out anymore and could just hide, even though she had already recognized him. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 360. Chapter 360. If you have any questions, please consult. Zhang Wanan, the study committee member, refused to give up, but he couldn't resist Lu Zizhu and was about to jump. Zhang Wanan closed her eyes and grabbed one of Lu Zizhu's arms with half of his head exposed. Hey, what a coincidence. Zhang Wanan, did you know that you fell in love prematurely? If the teacher finds out, you will be punished, she said anxiously, with an expression that said, this is all for your own good. Zhang Wanan rolled his eyes internally and thought, You really want the teacher to know about it and punish me? I didn't. Zhang Wanan immediately denied it. I saw it all. The study committee member pointed at the two people and said this with a childish tone. What did you see? What evidence do you have? Can you take care of yourself? Zhang Wanan said the last words in the same tone as Lu Zizhu. She has long disliked this nosy study committee member. Lu Zizhu, who was standing in front, felt very relieved when he heard Zhang Wanan's 3 consecutive questions. I. He hesitated again for a while. She really had no evidence. She just saw the 2 people walking out and didn't know anything else. Classmate, seeing is believing, but you can't judge whether a person is right or wrong by just seeing a corner of it. This is unfair to people. Lu Zizhu told the lesson study committee member seriously. That's right, Zhang Wanan echoed in a threatening tone from behind. Then, but I just think you two have something to do with each other. She still didn't give up. Yes, there is a relationship, a big relationship. We are a family. A family that loves each other. He is the brother and I am the sister. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Zhang Wanan said a long paragraph in one breath. Lu Zizhu looked back at Zhang Wanan and said nothing in the end. In fact, what Zhang Wanan said was quite right, and she considered many factors. Yes, your surname is Zhang, and his surname is Lu, the study committee member said timidly. This time it was Zhang Wanan's turn to have nothing to say. What's wrong with the different surnames? Anyway, they will appear in the same household registration book from now on. Is there a problem? Lu Zizhu asked again. Lu Zizhu emphasized the word in the future, but the study committee member never listened to the key point, so she was selectively deaf and did not hear the 2 words, and then believed in the absurd brother and sister relationship between the 2. Plus there were still 2 minutes left in class, so she didn't pursue it any further. After all, it was not a wise choice for one person to fight 2 people, but she had another idea. The next second she handed over her little pink book and turned to the last page. She blushed and said, Brother Shui, can you leave your contact information? I want to ask you if I have any questions. Lu Zizhu rolled his eyes. This person must be too fickle. Zhang Wanan didn't say anything, but watched eagerly from behind to see how Lu Zizhu would refuse. No, Lu Zizhu pushed her notebook away without giving her any face. Brother Shui, don't fall in love prematurely, and don't ask others for their contact information. You will be punished by the school. If it is serious, you will be expelled. Lu Zizhu imitated her previous tone and emphasis and repeated her words. The study committee member's face turned red and she felt a little embarrassed. Lu Zizhu ignored her and patted Zhang Wanan's head lovingly in front of her, saying, Brother is back, sister, be obedient and study hard. Okay, brother, walk slowly, Zhang Wanan replied with a smile. When Lu Zizhu walked away, the study committee member had not moved yet. Zhang Wanan was grabbed by the study committee member just as he was about to lift his legs. Zhang Wanan took one look and said coldly, let go. She let go immediately. Can you? No, Zhang Wanan refused coldly. But I haven't explained it clearly yet. She muttered softly. End of this chapter.